I first met Rosemary when I was 7. My parents were inside, arguing again, the tension in the house suffocating. "Isabelle, come back!" they shouted at me, but I was already slipping out to the garden, seeking comfort among the old oak trees that lined our property. It was one of those cold, foggy afternoons with moisture clinging to the trees, and the air was heavy with the smell of earth and decay. It was there, near the oldest and largest tree, that I saw her. A girl my age, with tangled dark hair and eyes that seemed too big for her pale, thin face. She wore a white dress that looked like it belonged to another time, the hem dirty and frayed. She stood there, staring at me with a gaze that made me shiver. "Hi," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm Rosemary." At first I was startled, but her gentle smile put me at ease. "I'm Isabelle," I replied, my voice wavering a bit. We spent the afternoon playing together, her laughter echoing through the garden like a memory from long ago. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows, I felt like I'd known her forever. As time went by, Rosemary became my constant companion. She was always there when I needed her, always ready with a comforting word or a protective embrace. But something about her was unsettling. She never ate or slept, and no one else ever saw her. When I asked her about it, she just smiled, her eyes dark and endless. "I'm your special friend," she said, "here to keep you safe." Years passed, and Rosemary's presence became a normal part of my life. She was always there, watching over me, warning me of dangers, guiding me through tough times. Her protection felt like a warm blanket against the world's harshness. When I was 18, strange things started happening. I began having vivid nightmares of a dark, shadowy figure lurking in the corners of my room. Rosemary always appeared in these dreams, standing between me and the figure, her form glowing with a dim, ghostly light. One night, the nightmare was particularly intense, and I woke up screaming. Rosemary was there, her usually calm face etched with worry. I asked her what was happening, my voice shaking. She dismissed it quickly, but I could tell she was lying. She urged me to stay close to her, promising safety. Despite her reassurances, the nightmares got worse. A growing sense of dread loomed over me, as if something terrible was just out of sight. The house felt colder, the shadows longer and darker. Rosemary's behavior became more erratic. She was more possessive, more desperate. One night, I woke to find her standing at the foot of my bed, her eyes filled with sorrow. She led me to the old oak tree where we had first met. Under the twisted branches and rustling leaves, she told me her story. Rosemary had been like me once, a young girl with a troubled home life. She had found comfort in the company of a ghostly friend, a spirit who had promised to protect her. But there had been a price. The spirit had tricked her into making a pact, a binding agreement that condemned her to become the next guardian, forever tied to the mortal realm. Tears streaming down her face, she confessed she didn't want to hurt me, but the cycle had to continue. She couldn't break free unless I took her place. My heart pounded as her words sank in. She had been manipulating me all these years, preparing me to take on her curse role. I felt a mix of betrayal and sorrow, understanding that she had been as much a victim as I was now. For days, I wrestled with what Rosemary had told me. The bond between us grew strained, the trust shattered. One night I decided to confront her, determined to find a way to break the cycle without damning myself to her fate. We stood beneath the oak tree once more, the wind howling around us, the branches creaking like old bones. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and despair. She warned me that if I refused, the shadow would come for me, and it wouldn't stop until I made the pact or I died. As if on cue, the air grew colder, and the shadowy figure from my nightmares appeared, its shape shifting and twisting like smoke. It hovered above us, radiating a sense of menace. I didn't move, my heart pounding, but I was determined. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I won't let this cycle continue." The shadow hissed, a sound like nails on a chalkboard, and lunged towards me. Rosemary stepped in front of me. She glowed with an otherworldly light. She struggled against the shadow, her face twisted in pain. I could see she was weakening, the years of being trapped taking their toll. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't let her sacrifice herself for me. I reached out, grabbing Rosemary's hand, and together we faced the shadow. Drawing on the strength of our bond, we pushed back against the darkness, our combined wills forcing it to retreat. With a final, anguished scream, the shadow dissipated, leaving us alone beneath the oak tree. Rosemary collapsed, her form flickering like a dying candle. She whispered her thanks, barely audible. "You've broken the cycle," she said. As she faded away, a feeling of peace came over me. The curse was lifted, and Rosemary was finally free. I stayed there for a long time, letting everything that happened sink in. Months passed, and I never saw Rosemary again. But sometimes, when the wind rustles the leaves of the old oak tree, I feel her presence, a comforting reminder of the friend who once protected me. I've learned to live without fear, knowing that some bonds are strong enough to defy even the darkest of curses. But then, one cold, foggy night, something changed. I was walking through the garden, the air thick with the same eerie atmosphere that had first brought Rosemary to me. As I neared the old oak tree, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. My heart skipped a beat. It was Rosemary, but something was different. Her once gentle eyes were now dark and hollow, her face twisted with an evil, determined look. "Rosemary?" I called out, my voice trembling. She stepped forward, and I realized with a sinking feeling that this was not the Rosemary I had known. This was something else, something far more sinister. She spoke in a chilling echo of the girl I once knew, explaining that I hadn't broken the cycle, but only started a new one. The shadow hadn't been the curse. It was her freedom. By fighting it, I had accidentally bound myself to the oak tree, taking Rosemary's place as the curse guardian. Rosemary laughed, cold and mocking, as she disappeared into the night, leaving me alone beneath the old oak tree. The cycle had not been broken. It had only shifted. Now, I was the guardian, forever tied to this place, doomed to protect the next unsuspecting child who would wander into the garden, seeking solace among the shadows.